command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and the greatest good be present here. This worldview is so important to be able to retain in your bodies. You've seen now by this meditation the great creative power of intellect, especially with imagination being a driving force to what intellect does, which is put together the pieces of that gravity into the form that it's destined to be. This is a sacred place, and the seat of the soul does not originate here, but it resides heavily here because it is free will that gives you the power of life and death. Free will gives you the power as a human being to have a child, to give birth. Free will is what takes life away. And in this microcosm, the macrocosm is also reflected. This piece of your being, this intellect, has the building blocks coming into form that construct the very separate things that you think you perceive. And in this interface between the non-physical and the physical, it's almost like the chrysalis of a cocoon, where the energy starts out and the consciousness starts out completely non-physical and fluid, and it goes through this transformation and becomes something very separate. And all the way through it, you can clearly see that without the human intention and the three human dimensions organizing the mathematics into perceivable form, with the miracle and the mystery of compassion with a capital C, suddenly the power of your free will should make you catch your breath and leave you a bit speechless. Never before have there been so many who know and who are willfully choosing to take action to become the change, starting with themselves, starting with their own intellect. It's always so important to us to join with you in this time of great revelation. We intend to inspire you to feel the movement of compassion through all the manifestations of your physical world, even the ones that look and feel the absolute worst, because all of it is created by compassion. Compassion is God, basically. And through the individual expressions of God, one is you, one is her, one is him, one is me. Individual expressions of God coming together to join as one God for the good of all, to birth a new Genesis, a new world where war becomes an obsolete and unnecessary idea. You are birthing and living and holding this space, you and so many, many, many willing humans around the planet. Don't ever be fooled. Each and every prayer from each and every religion, each and every call for peace within hearts, within homes, within families, within communities, within nations, a call for peace. And it's from this choice of humans choosing with free will to make peace, to understand how wars begin within and undo them there, and live dedicated to that peace and unity no matter what's going on around you in the world. That is your job, to hold that space that you have been given and gifted with that physical body, the spark of God, the math of compassion, all working for the good of the whole. And as you align yourself in this way, You feel the ages and ages of humans who have taken up this call. And your ancestors join with you, and your timelines join with you, and the angels join with you, and the party joins with you. And we're hoping that you'll feel this field of unity wherever you go. Now that you've woken up in the void, your consciousness has become aware of what it's like to be nothing. And you've brought that into the math and the gravitational wave. You've taken one more step into the expansion of human consciousness, the evolution of this new wave, of the manifestation of compassion. Don't doubt that every situation you come across is designed by you and for you to keep you making choices for the good of the whole, to keep you awake and aware of your free will and your power. It's as if you have your finger on the nuclear button. You don't want to get riled and emotional and do something that intuition would not want you to do. So be in this wholeness that we've given you today and take that with you as you go forth. We are open for questions and conversation.
Hi, Jojo here. I have a question about free will and just some clarification, please. I'm looking at the map of consciousness, the part especially with it shows that the intellect has three components, the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. The ego resides in the conscious area, as I understand it. And that's where free will is exercised. Is that correct? And we're already aligned. Like the intellect is already aligned with compassion. We see that on the map. So where does the disconnect occur and why?
The disconnect occurs in the intellectual when there are actual waves and neurological instructions being transmitted from intuition. So we'll say the easy example of your intuition is telling you to rest. And there are all kinds of electromagnetic signals that go on. It hits that realm of intellect, those signals and those messages. And because of the gigantic cacophony that's going on the part of intellect to create the physical world as per instructed, there's a lot of distraction. Think of it as almost its intellectual primordial soup. So there's a lot of imagination. In the intellect, there is the ability to imagine anything that you can imagine. There's a lot that goes on so that those neurological impulses coming up from intuition are oftentimes lost. You don't hear them over the cacophony of what your mind is telling you and what is happening around you, not even just sitting in a room. What's happening around you is you're projecting and perceiving the entire universe. It gets disconnected because the free will and the functioning of the system doesn't have to obey the intuition, doesn't even have to hear it. It still needs to be making decisions. It's a part of the functioning of the system to decide you're going to turn left or decide you're going to rest or not. Yes, I'm going to rest. And then you organize decisions around resting, etc. Or you don't organize to rest and you decide you're going to push yourself even harder for reasons that your imagination tell you, not taking into account the entire whole system. And then you make decisions that somehow create obstacles and conflict because it's for the good of the few. As you then subvert emotion, a bigger abscess develops, and that reflects outwardly into the lens. Relationships have conflicts. The physical body gets ill. In an aligned system where intellect has had to train ego Intellect, ego. It's very hard to separate where imagination and intellect and ego are in the non-physical, but they're there. Intellect trains itself to align to compassion. It trains itself to quiet down cacophony and listen for intuition. What's it saying? It trains itself to do those simple tasks in order to align to compassion. And all of you who are listening to this, you maybe don't think this way, but you're all committed to the good of the whole. You have just trained yourself. It doesn't mean you always hear intuition clearly and you make the best decision, but that's the point of being here, is to become in that fashion. And then ultimately, even all of that is for the good of the whole in the end, when there's no more body. It just becomes energy again with mathematics that are going to manifest in another physical body in some way, embodying that same energy. All those lessons you learned in those other lives come bleeding through. And in this way, by tackling this, you're helping your ancestors in your own timelines as well.
Thank you kindly.
Yes.
Thank you for your channeling and for the beautiful meditation. I have a small question. If we align the intellect to compassion and we do it through meditation, and we do that every day or as often as we just can, that sounds to me one of the biggest steps in the direction of peace, because we quiet our minds and align it with the God. And then it sounds actually like the rest will happen on its own. Is it like that?
Yes, because when you get out of the way and you align to compassion, and intellect is now in the ever-present observation mode rather than the judgment mode or the doubt mode or any of those other modes, fully aware of the whole operating system, listening for intuition. Now, this is when you get into the condition to be able to manifest huge miracles, because you're so let go and you're so awake in all parts of the operating system. So you're feeling, even in your physical bodies, as you sit here right now, you're feeling this huge wholeness of the miracle that just you having this life is. Then, as you're observing and listening, then intuition says, yes, go left. And you go left and you manifest something much greater than if you've tried to figure it out with your intellect. But a lot of the work that you're talking about is trying to explain to your very, very complicated intellect. Now, remember, there's also the intellects of all your other lives. And in some more distant circles, there's the intellects of everyone on the planet. And in distant circles, there's the intellects of everyone who's been human. So intellect really contains so much more, which is part of the cacophony. And the cacophony, well, just the creation of the physical world alone is so miraculous that, of course, there's that kind of chaotic, creative cacophony. When you get out of the way, you have to explain to your intellect. Intuition says rest. And then you hear some part of your intellect saying, I can't rest. I've got this to do and this to do and this to do and this to do. And then what you hear is intuition impelling and intellect listening and observing, and then saying, all right, let's do this with that for now and this for that, and we'll give that to that person, and then we'll get you into bed. So that's you. That's all you, the multi-personality, multi-lives, multi-layered. The reason why we're describing intellect this way, because that's just about everything, everyone's intellect, is because now you've been taking these steps to expand your consciousness. Just in this summer alone, of how you've taken this information in and are living in it, and it's having a very profound change on how you relate to life, because now you're much more observing. And then when you hear all that yada, yada, yada in the intellect saying, well, I can't rest, it just sort of dries up. It's there maybe like a little breeze. No, I can't. I got too much to do. And then some bigger part takes over for you to relax and say, intuition says rest. End of story.
Thank you. And that was clarifying. Thank you. So the letting go process happens first and foremost in the intellect. Is that right?
Yes, actually, it may be the only place because intuition and emotion don't have the same structure, purpose, texture, operating manual that intellect does. You don't have to let go of intuition. You don't want to let go of emotion. You want to breathe them and have them flow, but it's only in the intellect where, because of that imagination and because of that free will, that the imagination can think up all kinds of things that convinces the free will to go make decisions. It's really where the letting go happens so that you can become that observer more and more and more, live in the fullness and the richness of who you truly are.
Yes, yes. And when we let go in the intellect and really let go, then a trapped abscess or other diseases or other things can just release themselves in a way. So because the intellect is not blocking anymore, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Really cool. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. It's the difference between trying to go directly at whatever those intellectual stories are and aligning to compassion in this way, where the goal is not to address the stories, but to address the condition of being that observer, listening for intuition, and then acting on intuition. To learn that skill set, you will have to address voices, but it's just a secondary part of your whole stance. These are miracles that you're all going to see, if you're not seeing them already, taking place on the planet right now. We have so much excitement here because of how much everyone is waking up and expanding into the consciousness of their bigger self. Granted, you who are listening to this have probably been working for a long time to wake up and expand into this bigger operating system. Others have been working for so long and many lives to become awake and thriving and regenerating, happy and healthy, contributing, and that's happening. So don't be fooled by externals, ever don't be fooled. Keep the focus on this one day at a time. Makes everything a little bit easier.
Yes, thank you.
I just have to thank you so much for this very profound and ingenious meditation. I have to say, getting the opportunity to experience the operating system like that. And then today, just going into the intellect, I heard you say that the intellect creates a separation. So I'm just wondering, is that where the division is that the intellect creating that division that we see in our world, our duality?
It's a very important part of the system of the three human dimensions. You need the fuel of emotion, you need the impelling of intuition, and then you need the intellect as that interface between non-physical and physical to start to create separation. If you look at the whole operating system, there isn't any separation. But if you're talking about having a human experience where there is separation, where there is a computer, such a thing as a lamp, and your physical body has been separated out, then that is intrinsically what intellect, one of the biggest jobs intellect has to do, is start to articulate the separation that's inevitable. In the point of it being also ego and free will, there's a psychological challenge of coming from the voice of intuition, of everything, of compassion impelling you for the greatest good, into a much smaller dimensional world that intellect helps you have the perception of the physical world being separate. It's necessary, but it does affect your free will decisions if you're not awakened to what the operating system is doing. If you're not able to be a witness and observe yourself, you get caught in the patterns, and free will becomes more robotic, as if you turn your free will over to the pattern. So this is what everyone is breaking out of, to become that fresh, lively being, sizzling alive in the miracle of human life and radiating the potential for the greatest good. Such a miracle.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. I've been very consciously working on the three working together as unified. And lately I've experienced like this shift in my perception, as if I'm seeing from above the whole set. Like I used to be on one side of a chessboard, and now I'm seeing above the manipulation of the two sides, where I was involved in duality and division. Now the players in game just seem like they're one. So it reminded me of the two sides of our brain that these meditations have been working on, bringing the two together, as we ideally want to use both sides as a whole. And because I've been on one side a lot, the left cacophony side. So seeing now the manipulation by one playing two sides against each other in my exterior outside world, I asked where in my operating system was I manipulating through division, and so that's why I was focusing on what you said about the separation in the intellect, because that's where I go to. That's the usual culprit, to see how the intellect, if the intellect is manipulating the intuition and emotion so it can get what it wants for the good of the few. It's just part of my conscious awareness of what the intellect, its tactics.
Well, that was very articulate about why it's a regular part of a daily regime. It's not something you do and then you get healed and then everything's perfect. It's installing that decision. It's a decision you're making every day, because that is the capacity. Yes, you're still working. Your intellect is always going to be that cacophony just by its nature. However, you've seen over the years how much more aligned you are. It's like yoga. If you do it every single day, your body starts to align in new ways. And if you do this observation of your thoughts, feelings, senses, your emotion, intuition, and intellect every day as a part of your creative effort, every day you want that intellect to just shut up, and you want to be able to look out at whatever you're looking out at and not have 1 second of miracle missed on your perceptions. And if there's any deviation or deviousness, it's when you miss that. And that's what intellect does. It has you miss that as if it's not a miracle.
Thank you so much. I just appreciate all of this and all of this discussion that went on too. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Yes, and thank all of you. We are so honored to be here in this sacred function that is also so deepening. We feel as we speak that the events that are taking place on your planet right now, combined with the waking up to how powerful you are, is as if you've been given this gift that is inspiring you, and that energy becomes the synergy that then transforms the manifestations. So don't miss many levels of miracles that are going on right now. And if you find yourself judging or fearing something, say the worst things you can feel, go into the fullness of the entire operating system. Shift your focus to the source. to the heavens, to your power of compassion, and know just by making that shift, you've done your job. You have shifted something through your willingness to bring compassion to the forefront in the way that you've been taught, these simple, everyday ways. And that is huge. And more people know it. And so we're even more assured when we say, watch and be amazed. Namaste.
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 Namaste.